Welcome back to another episode. I have put off doing this episode for a while now because it felt like inevitably the Giants were still in on guys like Matt Chapman and Blake Snell. But on today's episode, because I do believe that they are probably mostly done adding anybody, if they do, make any more moves, it's probably going to be to clear space for players or clearing spots off the 40-man roster. So we're going to go ahead and do our offseason grades for the San Francisco Giants, which now keep in mind for this, I am keeping it to player acquisitions and who left, who came in. I'm not grading them from a PR standpoint. I'm not grading based off of things like the Rennell Brooks departure or Crawford or how JD was handled. This is strictly just grading how I view the team and going into next year and how they addressed everything. So, starting off, we're going to just kind of talk about, obviously who they brought in, which the big people they brought in are going to be Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, Jorge Soler. They signed Tom Murphy, Nick Ahmed, and Jordan Hicks, as well as trading for Robbie Ray. So a lot of big acquisitions there. They easily have spent the second most money in baseball. It's actually funny. You take that graph and you remove the Dodgers from it, and it's the Giants have spent quite a bit more money than even the next team, I believe. So the Dodgers are just that anomaly that have spent like $1.1 billion. So, um, but looking at the roster and what they did last year and their weaknesses, I flat out, I'm going to give Farhan a ton of credit for the offseason he has had. He is, for me, he's getting a nice solid A. There is one move that I'm begging for that I will bump that to an A plus if they make it. But he's had a great offseason. This is the best Giants offseason as far as addressing needs that I've seen in a long time. So we're going to kind of go through some of those. Um, Now, these are just this was their rankings on a bunch of different categories last season. These were the areas where it looks like they improved and where they could have used improvement. But you have the Giants last season were 19th in home runs, 25th in doubles, 27th in slugging percentage, 28th in batting average, 24th in on base percentage, 26th in OPS, and DFL in errors/fielding percentage, as well as stolen bases last season. They were also 11th in ERA, which I do think they addressed that because that if you went off WAR, I believe they were like fourth in bullpen WAR, and then their starting rotation was like middle of the pack. They were around 15th. So they've definitely addressed the starting rotation as well as the bullpen. If you kind of look at the later parts of the season, now where they addressed each of those, well, for as far as power production, you get guys like Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler. Those guys are going to help with your power output. You're also hoping that, Michael Conforto, another year removed from injury, might be a little helpful there as well. Things like batting average. Now, I don't think they necessarily address that as much, but the hope is that Jung-Hoo Lee is going to be a high average guy. And that's where if you can bring in a guy like, make a change over to a guy like Matos, who likely will hit for a much higher average than, say, a Mike Yastrzemski or a Michael Conforto, depending on what route you want to go, you can, make some, you can address that as well. Soler and Chapman, they do get on base at a decent clip. They'll help a little bit there. Jung-Hoo Lee, that's kind of what you're hoping out of him if he's as good as you hope. So they're going to help with all those different power outputs. Now, stolen bases, they were last, but you look at the roster right now, Lee's going to add some speed. Guys like Matt Chapman, he's not going to steal a ton of bags, but he's not a station to station guy like JD. He actually is one of the faster players. If you just go off of, strictly sprint speed, he's actually pretty high up there in the league. So he's going to help that. Errors, the defense. You're adding a guy that won 5 Gold Gloves in Korea. You're adding two-time Gold Glove winner at shortstop in Nick Ahmed. You're adding a four-time Gold Glove winner in Matt Chapman. I mean, they very clearly addressed the defense. This team should be much improved. You're also allowing, by getting a guy like Lee, you're allowing Mike Yastrzemski, if they are going to stick with that, to kick over to a corner outfielder spot where he is much better and high. He's like good to great in a corner, and he's just kind of like average to barely above average when you put him in center field. So the defense is going to be greatly improved. You look at the starting rotation. This is a rotation that had basically Webb and Cobb and 3 openers last season. Well, now you have Logan Webb, Blake Snell. Cobb looks like he's going to be back in April at this pace. He's throwing 3 innings on Friday, supposedly. And I don't know if he'll get one more outing before the season, but if he does, maybe he pushes it to 4. I mean, he might be able to give you 4 or 5 innings come opening day. So you might not be missing Cobb as much. Now, I'm not going to rely on him that early, but that just seems to be where it's trending. But, now you got Cobb and you've got Hicks. Now, I have concern on Hicks's arm holding up long term, but you know, at least in the early parts of the year, he's going to get relied on as a starter. And then eventually he could get kicked down to the bullpen at the end of the year, which I don't think would be a bad thing for him. Let him throw 100, 125 innings total on the season, and then he can keep trying to build up his arm next year. But I think they got to be careful with him. And Kyle Harrison, who is, I mean, this spring has been almost unhittable. He still has some of the control issues, but you're seeing why they're so high on him and why everyone around baseball, scouts, or everyone and that make the top 100 lists and everything like that, they're all so high on Kyle Harrison because his stuff is just nasty. And I think, getting a guy like Blake Snell in the rotation where Kyle Harrison might have the possibility of learning a little bit from him, um, maybe not learning as much of riding the high wire act with walking a bunch of guys, but learning some things from him, that's going to be great benefit to him. So the rotation, just top to bottom, it doesn't look like we're going to get openers. It doesn't look like we're going to have to deal with a lot of that. Maybe at the very beginning of the season, just with all the injuries and people coming back, but the rotation should be really good. If you get production out of Robbie Ray, suddenly you can kick Jordan Hicks back to the pen. Now you have another great late inning guy. All the young kids that have been showing up in spring training, like Mason Black and Landon Roop, and eventually Carson Wisenhunt. I mean, you have so much depth that hopefully by midseason, if a guy goes down for a couple weeks, you're not going to be panicking. Like last season, if had Cobb been down in, May, we would have been freaking out because we would have had just Logan Webb. It was already bad with only 2. So that they definitely have addressed the rotation. And the team was 11th in ERA. Now they were also 15th in runs allowed. So there was a huge gap from the earned runs to total runs because of how terrible the defense was. So I fully expect that to be like a top 6 or 7 unit in baseball this season, especially in this ballpark. They very well might be like a top 5 even. So we'll kind of see how they do there. Now, I am going to go over the one move that I really did not like because I like almost everything that Farhan did. And the one move I did not like was the Tom Murphy signing. And I understand a lot of people have issues with Joey Bart. And I'm not trying to push specifically Joey Bart. But your primary job as a backup catcher should be defense, handling the pitching staff. What you can do offensively, I really don't care. Like, I don't care if Tom Murphy goes and hits 300 with 10 homers in 50 games. I care about what he's doing defensively, handling the pitching staff when it's his time. And quite frankly, he's not good defensively. I don't know how many people watched the game yesterday, but I mean, he throws the ball to second base like Rube Baker throws balls back to the pitcher. And that's not even being mean or making an overreaction. Like, he went 1 for 28 throwing out runners last season. With the rules being the way they are and being so, that being in a way that favor running and the running game in baseball now, you can't just have a catcher that has zero chance at throwing a guy out. And, if I'm the other team, if I'm the Arizona Diamondbacks and Tom Murphy is ever starting him against me, I am going to run every time I'm on first base and possibly even second base because he's terrible at throwing guys out. So, and the Giants don't exactly have like world class home to the plate deliveries. They don't have guys that are just the fastest guys to the plate. So I really don't understand that signing. I get they were trying to get more power and you know, get more production offensively, but I'm sorry, you don't sign backup catchers for power production. It's honestly kind of a joke. And he's mediocre at framing. He's mediocre blocking balls. I mean, literally, Joey Bart is better defensively in every category than Tom Murphy. So, yeah, I mean, I think Bart would have made way more sense as a backup catcher. I don't care if he's a singles hitter. I don't care if he's not hitting a ton. We watched Eli Whiteside and Nick Hundley, and I mean, Stephen Vogt actually hit pretty decently, but we're watching guys like that backing up Buster Posey forever. Kurt Casale was a perfect example. No one cared that he was hitting on the interstate every year. They cared that he caught a bunch of shutouts and he could handle a pitching staff. So that's what's important out of a backup catcher. So I hated that move. I don't even care if you would have kept Joey Bart. Like, I would have rather just go get a guy similar to Kurt Casale that you felt good about defensively. Last year when they got Roberto Perez, like that's a perfect example of the kind of guy you go get as a backup. Now, granted, Perez's shoulder basically exploded in the second game of the year, and he was out for the year. So, it is what it is. Like, that didn't work out, but that's the kind of guy you get. You don't go get a power hitter to be your backup catcher. But I digress. I will move off my soapbox on that one. That's the one move, but I'm not really docking them because overall they did so much this offseason. That's so good. And, one of the most important things that they did do is they're making this team interesting. We're not last season with all the openers and a billion platoons and everything. I mean, they had turned the game into kind of a bore. They didn't play fundamental baseball. You felt like you were watching the Bad News Bears out there. There was no situational hitting. Guys were kicking balls left and right. Every hit was station to station. Very little speed. I mean, all around the team was just kind of boring. Now they found ways to win, but they, went 79 games with it felt like about a 70 win roster, but they they were just a kind of boring team to watch, for lack of a better way of putting it. So they do look a lot more exciting. They have a lot more flair. You got guys like Chapman making web gems. Same with Nick Ahmed over there. Jung-Hoo Lee is just an exciting player, and he has an exciting style, and he just seems like an exciting type of person. Jorge Soler is like got the most swag on the team, and he's going to hit balls 450 feet. So, there's just a lot more interest in this team. I mean, Blake Snell is going to probably strike out 200 plus hitters again if he can throw enough innings. So, it's really an awesome time for the Giants and their fans this offseason. It was really exciting, and I'm giving Farhan all the credit in the world. And I said I would. I've been critical of him. A lot of people have, and I'm giving him a ton of credit for this offseason. Where the Giants now kind of stand. Now, I'm just talking off the Pacoda rankings. They do have them ranked actually they have them uh, slated to win the third most games in the NL, which I thought that's interesting. Have them at 85.1. Keep in mind, it's all crowded. It's like averaged out over 1,000. So all the win totals are usually, depressed a little bit. So they had them at 85.1, which was the third highest win total in the NL. And, I think anybody looking at this roster realizes that, they have an opportunity at the very least. I know a lot of people want me to say like, oh, chase the division. And I'm just being realistic here. The Giants should have that mindset that they're trying to win the division. I'm an unbiased outsider looking at the team. Like I'm just trying to be objective here and realistic. And they're probably going to still finish 20 games behind the Dodgers in the division. But they do look like a team that could potentially get like the first wild card spot, which gives you a home playoff series in the wild card round. And I don't think any team in baseball is going to feel super comfortable going up against the Giants pitching staff. If you have an elite pitching staff, an elite defense, you got a chance. I mean, we watched it for 3 championships. So that's where they've really succeeded, is giving themselves a chance. Now, the one move, like I said, I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to keep begging for it. There's still a little too much swing and miss for my taste on the Giants. I think they had the 6th most strikeouts in baseball last season. They addressed it a little bit with Jung Hoo Lee. For the love of God, get Luis Matos in the lineup. I don't know how much more the guy needs to do. This isn't about proving it. We can't talk about options. The best 26 need to be on the roster. He is proving he is one of the best 26. Get him on the roster. But I already made the whole video on that, so I'm not going to keep going. But as always, if you guys like the video and like the content, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support. I have ideas as I kind of hit different milestones. I want to start trying to do some different things, whether it's bringing people on. So anybody that's ever interested in that, let me know. Doing live shows. I'll probably do that once I get up to like 500 subscribers, because kind of want to make sure there's going to be enough interest to do that. I don't want to do it with only like 5 people in the room. It would be kind of pointless. So tell me what you guys think. If there's any topics you want me to discuss over the next couple days, hopefully we're going to get into the full swing of the season here in about 9 days or 8 days. So it's pretty awesome. It's the best time of the year. So hope everyone has a good one and enjoy the rest of your week.